Hey Axis and Allies players, the good captain here. Welcome to the conclusion of round 1 and the beginning of round 2 of this game of Axis and Allies Classic played against Ragnell 804, the purpose of which is to review what I have found to be the best way to track dice in a game of Axis and Allies. So, some good stuff to review here, some things that weren't covered in that first video. The Japanese purchased 3 transports, and these 3 battles, this one here, let's do it first. When you're setting up, especially naval battles, or any battle calculation really, you need to fix it for how your opponent selected for casualties. So normally I would drop the submarine first if I were the Japanese player. However, Ragnell will not do that. So it's actually transports, then subs. And then fighters, carriers, and battleships in this situation. And then, yeah, this one's pretty straightforward for the Americans. And that's just to make sure you have the most accurate results when you punch through the battle calculator. But it's not a big deal in this battle. It can be a huge deal in other battles, especially where there's bombers on defense. But anyway, okay. So what we're looking at here is units left if attacker won. The attacker is going to win. It's 100%, right? There's not, in 20,000 battles, not one battle went the way of not enough. It's 99.99 or better here to make 100%. So it could have been that one battle, but anyway, effectively there's no win. So what's left? 6.4. So we write that down off to the side, and we only care about end result. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the Japanese have 7 pieces left. So they rolled up, right, by 0.6. So we write down plus 0.6 for the Japanese. So far they're up just over half a piece. Okay, and then we'll do Xinjiang. So we're punching this up. So 99.17. And then I click on retreat when only air left to see how fraught it is for the air units. So about 1 in 10 games, it might cut down to an air unit and force the Japanese player to decide whether to capture the territory or not, or where the Japanese player loses 2 infantry in order to retreat his air units and keep them safe. But again, we're going to align the result with what happened. He did not retreat because there's ground units left over. We take off aerial retreat. This is the stats we're going with, aligning the end result with the calculator result. So units left if attacker won in this case is 3.11, but they have 4 pieces, so that is plus 0.89. Okay, plus 0.89 and plus 0.6 so far. So good turn so far for the Japanese. Not as good as the German turn with its plus 5 or whatever, but very good. And finally, we have China. China is the most fraught. This is where things, 87. So, and when you put in the retreat when only air is left, it's going to drop a couple more percentage points. So you're looking at almost an AA gun's chance of shooting down an airplane, almost 1 in 6 there. Oh, sorry, but what is the final result? The final result is units left if attacker won, 3.46. They have 3, so this is actually minus 0.46 for the Japanese. So it comes up to almost plus 1 exactly. So a nice turn for the Japanese here. Not that they needed it. The Germans really blew the doors off. So we go to turn complete. Okay, blah, blah, blah. And For the USA, I bought 2 transports and an aircraft carrier. And we do have a battle. I do have a battle out in the West Indies. Or not the West Indies, the West Spain Sea Zone. So again, we have a situation where it's either going to be minus 0.66 or plus 0.33. That's the only one of two results. Either the bomber hits or the bomber misses. In this case, it's plus 0.33. We do get the kill. I'm not going to even run the calculator because it's just going to tell me the same thing I told you. You get one throw, and then it's over. That's kind of a unique thing with submarines in this version of Axis and Allies. So that's easy. So I'm going to write that down. Plus 0.33 for the USA. Okay. And since it's the end of the round, the Japanese total is plus 1.05, bringing the new Axis total to plus 6.26. But we minus the point, or we add, so the Americans got their hit, which is technically plus 0.33 for the Allies. So this is actually now plus 5.93. Okay, so that's what a Grand Slam looks like for the Axis. Or really for any side in Classic. If you have something like this at the end of round 1, it's... well, this is where experience comes in. I'm going to say it's GG right now because my opponent is very experienced. If this was, honestly, almost anyone else, I wouldn't be nearly as worried. I would have a tougher game ahead of me, but there's very little opportunity with this fellow to regain any kind of initiative. So what we'll do is the next best thing, and that is increase the risk profile. And as you'll see in my Russia moves, that's what we're going to do, or start doing. It doesn't really work, but it's the only way that you can regain initiative after the dice have gone your way against you and the opponent is as good or better than you are. So here we are. This is my risky attack. 3 infantry attacking 2 infantry is a coin flip with a very, very slight weighting in the attacker's favor. So this is going to be interesting for the result. Because there's no clear winner, we have to manage it differently. But in the end, it almost doesn't matter. This ends up being a strafe. And I'll run this one first. So yeah, let's just look at this as a strafe. This is how you manage a strafe. You figure out how many rounds of combat there were where there was at least 1 kill, right? So round 1, we lose a piece, and then we retreated. So what we're going to do, again, it's retroactive. You set the battle calculator to what happened. So in a single round of combat, what is the most likely outcome? That's it. We did 1 round of combat, so I set it for 1 round of combat. And what was the outcome? Units left if attacker 1 was 2.35. What did the attacker, then we use average attacker units, so it's 2.33. So it's minus 0.33 for the Russians. I write that down. But then we also have to weigh the Japanese. When you're doing strafes, where you have to set for a certain amount of rounds, and you have to weigh it against average defender units left, not whoever won, because there was no winner. No real winner, no total victory. So average defender units left is 1.5. And what did they end up with? 2. So the Japanese are plus 0.5. So that was a total modifier, right, of plus 0.83 Axis, minus 0.33 for the Allies, and plus 0.5 for the Axis. Total plus 0.83 for the Japanese there. And so I write that, I'm just going to write that down as one number, plus 0.83. Okay. The other 2 are more straightforward. We have this one, which is standard blocker removal situation. units left if attacker 1, 2.52. And we ended up with, so this is what, a plus 0.48, right? So we do plus 0.48. And finally, we do the battle in Finland, Norway. Okay. I think this one went rather well for the Allies. Plus 5 point, or sorry, average attack units left. Again, the percentage is sort of giving you an idea who's, or how to measure which statistics to use when measuring your dice. So I see it's 99.44, so we're just going to use average units at the left if attacker 1, 5.05. And what do we have at the end? We have a whopping 7, so that's plus 1.95 in favor of the Allies, which they desperately need. They very much need some luck somewhere at this point to have an interesting game. So I'll just pocket this, we'll bucket this Russian turn here. So they started out with basically a negative 0.83, right, for that small bad battle in Manchuria. But they made up for it quite a bit in Norway and a little bit more in Ukraine. So they ended up with a positive 1.6. So I put that here. Okay, that's nice. And that's actually going to bring our net down to 4.33, right? Yep. So the Axis are still doing fantastic, but at least it's come down from that uber high from a turn ago. So let's continue. That's it for this video, and we'll see you in the next round.